Hello everyone, back to another BFB Murderers Mystery. Today is the 4th episode, I believe, which means in the next episode, you'll actually be able to vote on who you think the murderer is. Anyway, let me just grab out a picture that I drew. This is what Davidelle looks like. The host. I made her appear robotic. Anyway, it was the next day. Everybody had been continuing to talk about who could possibly be the murderer. 6 people had already died, whether because they were the believed murderer or because they were killed by whoever the murderer was. Nobody knew who it could possibly be. Their killing style changed every single day. Day 1, poor X was chopped into itty bitty bits. Day 2, a snowball was melted all over the floor of the guy's room. Day 3, Book was burned alive. Their style changed a lot, which meant finding out who it would mean it happened to be someone who didn't always stick with the same strategy. This time we're going to be going over to Death Pact. Death Pact was having a conversation about who they thought the murderer could have been. They all knew a black hole couldn't have been it, simply because if he was the one killing everyone, there would simply be nothing left behind. Absolutely nothing. There was still a possibility for anyone on their team to be it. A continuous look around made people unwary of one another. But Team Death Pact made sure not to tell anyone information, seeing how Book, this had now been spread around, had found out information about the murderer yesterday, or at least the day before her murder. Which meant the murderer, if they found out that they knew information, one of their teammates could be on the chopping block. It wasn't too long, however, before another yell was heard. There was sounds of electricity coming that direction as fire was running out. Saying he saw, the majority of Iants near the now dead Robot Flower. They were looking at Robot Flower as well, but they weren't being as loud as Fiery. This was the second time Fiery had told everyone that somebody had been killed. The first time it was sadly 4-2 and Winner who found out about the death first. And that time around, nobody other than Davidelle was the person who told everyone. And on day 3, everyone was alerted when they heard Book's screams. But day 2 was one of the other days Fiery had told everyone someone had died. They were getting suspicious. If this happened a 3rd time in a row, or at least a 3rd time, they would most likely try getting rid of him, with him as the possibility of the murderer. Team Death Pact now began to socialize and talk about who it could possibly be. Water. Sapillo, it can't be Fiery or Fiery Jr. Both of them would not even get close to water. It could be Lightning, said Pen. It seems likely enough. Yeah, but would really Lightning do such a thing? Asked Pillow. though probably is one of the Alliance members. They looked around at who could possibly be it. Everybody was talking in their groups, and Death Pact decided that there was a possibility that Fiery Jr. had done the deed, but the likelihood was low, as both of them would not be around water. And if you guys recall, I have said both Fiery and Fiery Jr., neither of them are the murderer in this situation. Anyway, everyone now decided to go over to the murder scene again. Irons was now gone. They had gone off as well. And Death Pact looked around at what was there. Black hole wasn't to touch anything, because, it would destroy any evidence that was left. The bucket was there, and there was no sign of somebody who had touched the thing. But the water definitely was all over the bucket and was slowly pooling down to the very bottom. Somebody had thrown the water right onto Robot Flower, which meant it could have been a dangerous action if it were anyone that could have been harmed by water, which they thought would eliminate Fiery or Fiery Jr., and this also would eliminate any of the other robotic characters, which included TV, Roboti, and Remote. They were also not possibly the ones who had done the deed. Robot Flower was now completely deactivated by now, mainly because the short-circuiting wasn't fixed in time. Basketball was off somewhere, as Robot Flower was slowly getting way too broken to be used in any way. So they came to a conclusion. Whoever had done it knew about Robot Flower enough to know that she would be harmed by water, but didn't know Robot Flower enough to possibly be on her team, which eliminated her entire team. Of course, he didn't spread this information with the others, simply because they didn't want to also be on the chopping block the next time around. Well, everyone else was assuming Fiery, simply because he had gone out and told everyone twice now. Now it was time for everyone to come back to the area, to the voting area. They were given out their slips of paper and they wrote down their answers. After time passed and they had all turned in their votes, Davy Dill then read them out, to herself of course, until she got onto the votes, and said, "Fiery, it seems like you're the one going." The chain grabbed his leg, similar to how he had done with all the rest, and dragged him right into the middle of the room. There was a bucket of water this time. It was completely full. And he dropped right in, and it closed, muffling the screams. The previous 3 times, they didn't even have time to scream. They were almost immediately destroyed. Anyway, said David Dill, Fiery was not the murderer. You have once again failed to find him. However, interestingly enough, Fanny and Lightning were up there as well. Fanny was the second most common option, while Lightning was the third most common option. 2 others were also chosen from the same team. This is interesting. For the 4th place most common option was pencil, while the 5th most common option was bubble. There were also other options, but I'm only going down to 5th place. 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th I will not be addressing. But it appears Alliance, or Ions, as you called yourselves in BFB, you should watch your back. Especially if you guys have the murderer in your team. Davy Dale smiled. To be honest, it was quite odd how a robot could smile. If their mouth wasn't similar to how TVs and remotes mouths worked. Now everyone grab your cards. She gave them out and everyone went to their rooms. We're following Black Hole. He was the only one that didn't really sleep in one of the beds, mainly because he would destroy the thing. And he simply waited outside of all the beds. He was still in the room, but he wasn't on a bed. The team quickly went to sleep, except Black Hole kept thinking things over. He thought about the previous 4 murders. The first one was death by a knife or some other bladed object. So it couldn't have been an armless contestant. And it couldn't have been someone slow, as then X most likely would have screamed, alerting everyone, similar to how Book screamed on day 3. Then he thought about day 2. Fire. It couldn't have been someone made of plants. Because 2 times, both on day 2 and day 3, fire was used. Whether it was Fiery Jr., who was completely blinded during the incident, or what was found, a flamethrower. So it couldn't have been a plant. It had to be someone who knew what they were doing as well when it came to the world of killing. And so he thought that would eliminate anyone who was fragile, someone who would be easily harmed. Fire would also eliminate Ice Cube, simply because if Ice Cube had used the fire, they would have been melted. Not only that, they were also an armless contestant, which would make it difficult for the first murder to have happened as quietly as it did. Black Hole continued to think about the options. Who else couldn't have it been? It couldn't have been one of the robotics. Robotic minds stick together. That was a common phrase for them to say. At least common enough. Though who else could it have been? The Flyers are also possible, excluding Puffball, simply because, well, it was kind of hard for her to use really anything. And if she had done some killing, there would have been a rainbow somewhere. She wasn't the type to kill. And it couldn't have been Belle, as well as quite loud when she walks around, which meant everybody would have been noted to the sounds that would always happen whenever a murder would happen. Also, the whole thing about the men's restroom was pretty dumb. Black Hole didn't actually think a female would go in there, but it was a possibility. Anyway, that was day 4. He's waiting for day 5? Well, it's coming soon, so I'll be seeing ya next time.